Last week, a swimmer that I've been working with for a while said she went to the pool, she was swimming and stopped at the end of a lap. And someone said to her, "You look like a good swimmer, you've got a nice style." And for her, as someone who didn't learn to swim as a kid, that was one of the best compliments that she'd received for a long time. So I want to go through this video and show you what can you do to swim smooth, efficiently, and look good when you do it. Because if you get compliments when you swim, you're probably doing some things pretty well in your style. Now, this doesn't necessarily translate to speed. There are other factors here. If we look at stroke rate, if you're swimming in the open water, there's some other things you need to consider for speed. But to look good when you're doing freestyle, these are some of the things that really make a difference. In this video, we're looking at Olympian Kiah Melverton. Here she's swimming at 112 pace per 100 meters, and she's making it look really easy. Now, what we usually want to start with is the right head position, posture, and kick. So you need to hold your body in a streamlined position in the water. And that starts with looking in the right position, which is 0 to 45 degrees, but lengthen your neck. And you can see here that she's really lengthening through the neck, not in a way where she's tense, but where she's still relaxed, but she's holding this long line through her spine and through her neck. That then moves down all the way through her body. And you'll see with her kick that she's got this very narrow, small kick with her toes pointed behind her. So you need to start with how you hold your body in the water, because if you're not holding it right, if you've got your chin forwards and eyes forwards and you've got this big uncoordinated kick out behind you, you're never going to look good. So you've got to keep the profile of the body streamlined and make sure you hold yourself correctly. Then if we have a look at the breathing, we've got to make sure that we're breathing to the side. Here you'll notice that as she takes the breath, she's looking directly to the side. So she's not looking up to the sky or behind her. She just keeps it directly to the side, keeping at least part of that face in the water as she gets the breath. Then after that, and this is, I think, really one of the keys to looking good with your freestyle, is how you come over the top of the water. When you come over the water, imagine that you've got a coach standing next to you here on pool deck. So imagine there's someone standing here, all right, and they are watching you swim. You want to show them your underarm as you're bringing your arm through. So you want to be open with your underarm when you swim freestyle and bring your arm over the top of the water. And I know that sounds like a bit of a funny thing to be doing, but when you do that, it means that your shoulder is going to be out of the water. So you'll notice here that Kiah's shoulder is just out of the water. And as she comes through, you can somewhat see the underarm as she's moving that way. What that's doing is it means that she's bringing the arm through kind of by lifting with the elbow over the water. So the energy or effort's coming more from the elbow as opposed to the hand. And that allows her to keep a relaxed hand and forearm in her recovery as she brings it through. So you notice on both sides, she's open through the underarm. The effort's coming more from the elbow than it is the hand. And then her hand can remain relaxed as she comes over the top of the water. Now then we want to transition that into the entry. And the entry should really be fingertips first, elbow up. And on that side, she just gets that position. On the other side, she gets that a little bit more. So fingers first, elbow up. That way, when you enter the water, as you extend forwards underneath the water, you'll then get rid of most of the bubbles that will be on the hand whenever you enter. Now, don't get me wrong there. It's okay to have bubbles on the hand when you enter. If you don't have any, you're probably entering, you're going slowly, you're probably being too gentle with it. So you will get some bubbles initially, but if you enter in this position here and you extend forwards in front of the shoulder, that gives some time to let those bubbles leave from the hand. So we want to make sure we get that entry right. Then after that, in the reach phase, and the reach is this position from here through to here. So in the reach phase, keep the hands soft, keep them relaxed as you're extending forward. If you're tense and you're really rigid, you'll probably find you don't move through the water very well in that reach phase, and you're probably going to rush down into the catch. So I like the term soft hands when it comes to thinking about how you should be feeling with your hands through the recovery, the entry, the reach, and the catch. Keep the hands soft. Now, again, don't get me wrong here, they're not going to be loose and floppy. You need some tension, but just enough to hold the shape. That's all we're looking for. So keep the hands soft in that reach phase. And with that kind of relaxation, you'll actually feel the water a lot better than if you were tense. So that's why we want to keep soft hands through the reach phase. Now, in that reach phase, imagine that you're either skating on your armpit. So with your underarm here, your armpit, feel like you're kind of skating on that armpit for a little bit as you extend forwards there. and while you're keeping the hand relaxed, because that way you're going to have that little bit of travel time through here. So as you reach forwards, this hand's pressing back past the hip. You're going to press back there, you'll reach forwards here, and you'll rotate your hips and shoulders. And that's where you'll get some really good momentum through that part of the stroke. And to me, that's really the key to looking like you're not trying hard, but still getting some good speed and momentum. It's a nice transition through there. And then as you switch from that left side to the right side, and when you put that together, that's when you can look like you're just cruising through the water. And it's kind of like, you think about people who are not trying. Like sometimes that's thought to be the cool thing, to look like you're not trying. Well, in swimming, it's kind of that way. You can look like this, like you're just not trying hard. But if you're swimming smoothly, you've got good speed, that's kind of what makes it look good. So you kind of want to look like you're not trying in order to be looking good when you swim, at least in an easy kind of way. But like anything, you don't want to do it too little where you're not doing enough to actually generate speed. So I think it helps to think about not trying to do too much, because if you're relaxed, you can tend to swim well and tend to swim with good speed. It's very efficient. Whereas if you're trying too hard, you're trying to force things and rush things, you don't move well and you're not going to swim well if you're doing that. So it can be quite a good approach to an extent if you are not trying to force things or rush things. Now, the other part of this here is find your breathing pattern. Everyone's different. That might be breathing every 2 strokes. As you can see, Kiah's doing here, she's breathing just to the right side, so every 2 strokes. And the number one thing is you need to get enough air in. So if you're breathing every 6 strokes, you're not going to get enough air to sustain that for very long. Now, whether you're breathing every 2 or every 3, just find your breathing pattern, settle into that, and that's going to give you your rhythm and your tempo. And that way you'll find that you can just be very consistent with all of the strokes that you're taking. Because consistency at the very top end of any sport, those that are the best athletes are consistent. They can repeat the same thing again and again. And especially in swimming, in freestyle, when you've got 30, 40, 50 chances per 50-meter lap to practice the same thing, we want to try and just be as consistent as possible, because that's where speed is generated. And also that's what looks good. If you're just like a robot going through the water, where you just have this consistent output, consistent stroke, that's another thing that tends to look good. Now, one of the things we haven't covered here is your catch and your pull. And we've only got the above water shot here, but with the catch and the pull, obviously we want to make sure we're getting a good high elbow position and we're having this slow to fast movement in the stroke, where you're that little bit slower out the front and then you speed up out the back there. So slower out the front, a little bit quicker out the back. That's going to give you that momentum, that propulsion to help you move through the water well. So there's some of the key things that I see are important if you want to look good when you do freestyle. Now, if you're doing triathlon, if you're swimming in the open water, there's that balance between looking good, but actually needing to get some speed going. So sometimes you need to get a bit scrappy with your stroke. So it's okay to get a bit scrappy. This is just to look good when you swim freestyle. If you're looking to get speed, well, that is the number one. That's the most important thing in many cases. So it doesn't matter how you look. We don't just want to go for things based on the visual aspect of it, if that's not the most important thing, especially if you're racing. So just use this as a way to look good, get compliments when you swim. Otherwise, there are some other things that may need to change, especially if you're going in the open water or wearing a wetsuit. Thanks very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please subscribe, like the video, and share this with someone else who you know is looking to improve their swimming.